So you hear about a new government policy. The headlines, they all sound pretty good, right? But you get this nagging feeling. Is this actually good for the whole country? Or is it really just good for a select few? It's a tough question, and honestly, it's often hard to see the real story.
So, yeah, how do we tell the difference? How can we know if a policy is genuinely for everyone? What if there was a simple but really powerful test we could apply to every new idea? A way to cut through all the spin and see what a policy truly sets out to do? Well, there's a new framework that suggests we can do just that. Let's get into it.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First up, we'll look at the new blueprint itself. Then, we'll dive into something called the good public purpose test. After that, we'll untack this great idea of building a floor and a ceiling. Then we'll see how it all works in the real world, and finally, we'll wrap up with what a framework like this really achieves.
Okay, let's kick things off with the big idea. What exactly is this new blueprint for Australian policy?
At its heart, it's all about introducing two simple, powerful filters. Think of them like a new pair of glasses for judging policy. They're designed to help all of us see past the surface-level claims and spot those moments when a narrow benefit for one group is being dressed up as a win for everybody.
So let's look at that first filter. It's called the good public purpose test, and right away, it sets a much higher bar for what we should expect from government policy.
And this is key. We hear the phrase public purpose thrown around all the time, but that can just mean a policy helps one particular group. This framework argues for something better, a good public purpose. And that is a whole different ballgame. It means the policy has to help society as a whole, and it has to do it in a way that's fair, balanced, and built to last.
So what does good actually look like? Well, it means we have to ask the tough questions. What are the ripple effects of this policy? Who wins and who loses? And is that fair? Does it actually help the people who are often left behind? It forces us to look beyond the quick, easy win and really think about the long-term health of the nation.
All right, let's move on to the second filter. It's a concept called building a floor and a ceiling. And this is what gives that first test, the good public purpose test, some real teeth. It's a simple but powerful way to think about what the government should be doing.
First up, the floor. Now, this isn't just a safety net for when things go wrong. No, it's a solid foundation. It's the absolute essentials that every single person needs to stand on, the things no one should ever have to live without. It's the public foundation that gives us all a shot at real freedom. And what's part of this floor? Well, it's the basics you'd expect. Food, housing, healthcare, education. But it also includes other crucial things like banking systems, energy, water, and proper legal protection. And the key word here is reliable access, because a right that you can't actually access isn't much of a floor at all, is it? Now, for the other side of the coin, the ceiling. This is all about putting some common sense limits on what it calls disproportional excess. Basically, it means we need to rein in huge concentrations of private power or wealth when they get so big that they start to eat away at our democracy and our sense of a fair go.
So what kind of excess are we talking about here? Well, it's things like monopolies that kill off small businesses. It's when a powerful industry basically captures its own regulator. It's labor exploitation or predatory pricing that hurts ordinary people. The ceiling is there to make sure the game isn't rigged.
And here is the most important part, the real takeaway. You absolutely cannot have one without the other. A floor with no ceiling will eventually get worn away by unchecked private power. But a ceiling with no floor just leaves people vulnerable and exposed. To have a decent, stable society, you need both.
Okay, that's the theory. Sounds good, right? But what does this floor and ceiling idea actually look like when you apply it to real-world policy debates here in Australia? Let's take a look.
Think about banking. We've all seen banks close branches in small towns because they're not profitable enough. This framework would say, hang on, the floor here is universal access to basic banking services. That's a community need that comes before a bank's profit margin.
Or what about housing? This is a massive one for all of us. This framework would force a huge mental shift. Instead of seeing housing as just a way to make money, we treat it as a fundamental social foundation. The goal then becomes making sure everyone has a secure place to live, which means building up that floor of social housing and maybe putting a ceiling on the kind of rampant speculation that locks people out.
And it's the same idea for health. The main goal becomes a system that is genuinely fair and accessible to every single person. It's not about protecting the profits of one part of the system. It's about strengthening that universal floor of public healthcare, especially for people who need it most.
So we've seen the big idea and how it could work. Let's pull it all together. In this last section, let's look at what this kind of thinking actually achieves.
See, the beauty of it is that its simplicity creates discipline. For any new policy, you just have to ask two simple questions. 1, what good public purpose does this serve? And 2, does it help build the floor for everyone, or does it help regulate the ceiling? And if you do that, the result is a system that automatically puts the common good before a narrow private gain.
And this really nails the shift in priorities, doesn't it? It's about putting the public before the private, the needs of the whole country before the needs of one small fragment, and the long-term health of our society before short-term convenience.
Let's end with this fantastic quote from the source material. Policy must be judged not by whether it benefits someone somewhere, but by whether it serves good public purpose across the life of the nation. It's such a simple idea, but it's also pretty profound. And it leaves us with a really important question to think about. What would Australia look like if every single new policy had to pass that test?